Hey, this is Suzanne, and we want to thank Thrive Academics Assessments for sponsoring Not by the Book. Unlock your students' potential with Thrive Academics Assessments. For just $25, gain unlimited access to their comprehensive online assessments for Math K-12 and Reading K-11 throughout the entire school year. Thrive Assessments are developed by Scantron Corporation and have administered over 170 million tests. They're norm referenced. You can compare your child's performance to national standards, Florida State approved assessments, computer adaptive, so you can pinpoint your student's exact skill level, online and flexible. There are no time limits, no proctor needed, and you can take tests anytime 24/7. Affordable and comprehensive. One low price of $25 for both subjects. Easy to read reports that help identify your child's strengths and weaknesses. Step Up for Students scholarships mandate an annual assessment. Thrive Academics is the best and most affordable solution. You can purchase directly from Thrive or the My Scholar Shop. Ready to see the difference? Visit the My Scholar Shop today and purchase your Thrive assessments. For more details, visit www.assessk12.com.
I really felt like God was calling me to be home. And most of my coworkers thought I was nuts. And they were like, why are you throwing this career away? And, I had studied for this. And I just really, my husband and I both felt like God was calling me to do that. And if I had not done that, I would not be doing what I'm doing today.
From the Florida Parent Educators Association, home of the largest homeschool convention in America, this is the Not by the Book podcast. I'm your host, FPEA Chairman Suzanne Nunn, and together we will hear from guests who share their journey to who and where they are today. Each one of them at some point left the expected path, ripped the page out of the book that says you have to do it like this, and made their own way. I hope these conversations inspire you as much as they do me. Today I talk with Sherri Seligson, marine biologist and author of many of the Apologia science books, and more recently, other fun projects. Sherri and I talk about her amazing experiences, exploring nature, and making learning about science fun. Join us now to hear her story.
So I spent a lot of time outside back in the days where kids played outside pretty much all day until the streetlights came on, and then we ran back inside for dinner. And so I was outside a lot of downtime, a lot of bored time because of that. And it's amazing. I learned that as a kid, and I instilled that in my kids, that when you're bored, you end up doing stuff, you create things. And so exploring. And so I did a lot of that. I grew up in Florida for the most part. And so we spent lots of time at the beach. Beach combing. I know you did that too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just beautiful. That's right. So just wonderful opportunity to walk along the shore, collecting shells, looking at inspecting things that you didn't know what they were. And then I spent a year as my family was transferred a couple different places. I spent a year in Colorado, which is a whole new environment. And learning about how it was very dry there, and the snow and different animals and the mountains. And I learned how to ski, and I had already known how to snorkel and loved under the water. And just being outdoors was a big part of my life. Spent another year in California on the shore there doing stuff and as a kid. And it was a great opportunity to explore other parts of our country that were brand new to me as a kid. And then it made it back to Florida and had been here since. So I think that just started me on my journey of exploring outside and loving to study things. And so in school, whenever we had science class, I was very interested because I was interested for the purpose of learning about what I was seeing. And so that kind of sparked that. And there were several individuals in my growing up years that kind of poured into me that love of being outdoors, nature, exploring things. And so I think that that's also a part of becoming who you are, are those mentors and parents. My parents were a part of that, just helping to give me that exposure to a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah. And I think that it's funny now. So it sounds like you enjoyed actual science when you were in school. I mean, it was funny because I later on went to get a history major, And I hated history all through high school and everything. Hated it. But part of the reason was because of the way everything was taught at that point, and the teachers and things like that. It wasn't the actual history. Yeah. But science was love for you. It's just a natural extension, I guess, of what you were doing naturally, which was exploring. And what other things did you do? Were you involved in other activities growing up other than, anything
not
organized?
A lot. We didn't have a lot of extra funds when I was in my growing up years. And I did Girl Scouts for a little bit. And, we went camping but a lot of it was just what we did as a family. We drove cross country when we drove out to California and back. So my parents were like, if they saw, a sign that said world's largest rubber band ball, they would turn really fast. Yes. Let's go see that. And so would get lost. Awesome. We'd have misadventures. Yes. And so that was really most of the experiences. I have a very large extended family, and so we would do things together as an extended family. I have 24 first cousins. So
my goodness.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy fun growing up season. But yeah, formal things, didn't do a lot. In my growing up years, I finally took a diving course when I was in college because I wanted to be a marine biologist, and but that was my own thing. I played flute. And so in middle school, that was that was kind of that was a middle school thing, and then I was on in California the drill team, which was kind of like it wasn't a dance team. It was more now it has become that, but it was more with the band marching kind of a thing.
And I was part of the pom pom squad. I know exactly what
you were. I love that. Yes. We probably have the same kind of moves.
We probably do. We'll pull out the eye of the tiger sometime. That will be
there. You go. Yes,
the dance team that we did. Yes,
and then that's right. Baby elephant walk and awesome? All those. That's right. Yeah, I remember having to do a split in the mud because if it had rained, the football players were playing. We came out at the halftime show and we had to end in a split, and there I did, right smack in the mud. It was what you do,
right in the mud.
Yeah, that's right.
You do. Yes,
yeah,
that's awesome. But it sounds like you had a lot of time outside and a lot of family time, which probably had a huge impact on shaping what future things you would be doing with your kids and your life. But you mentioned you went to college to be a marine biologist. Is that what you were hoping to major in and do?
It was a dream because I lived in Florida. I loved the ocean, but a lot of people have that dream. I was given some really good advice to get a broader major that would be in the sciences that could then help me move into whatever was opened and available. And so I majored in pre-med. And then just took a lot of my science electives were marine sciences and fish biology and ecosystems of the ocean, things like that. So, so that helped get me the education part, but it also, I was very well exposed to chemistry and physics and all the things you need as a pre-med major, anatomy, that just thoroughly built in me some skills that I didn't realize I would need today. And so, or even in my years as a marine biologist, I learned research skills and things that would prepare you to be a physician if you were going the pre-med route, the medicine route, but was very useful in marine biology as well. So it actually helped me, I believe.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Those are the little things that one day you look back and you're like, well, I'm glad I got that. Because whatever
so it was. Yeah, because we don't have that perspective in the midst of it. And sometimes, speaking spiritually, I feel, we feel like it's a very convoluted path that we're taking, but God just knows what we need. He knows the next step and the next step, and what might seem like it's a waylaid path, it's not. I spent a short semester in Barbados in college studying the marine ecosystems there, and that's what really sparked my love. But I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Where am I going to get a job? What am I going to do? But I loved it, and so not knowing what God was going to do was.
So And how
interesting.
soon out of college did you figure that out? Like, did you find what your next steps were going to be?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I was interested also in optometry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at Walt Disney World during college because I lived in Orlando.
Right.
And so, but my job at Disney was working on the rides. So I was like, two to a seat, watch your step, watch your step. That was my, it was great. It was great work for a college student.
Yeah.
And so the Living Seas was opening up, was their new ocean water, marine. It would look like a completely real ocean environment.
Yeah.
At the time, it was the largest aquarium in the world. It was opening at the end of summer. And I graduated, obviously, the beginning of summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had also applied to get an optometry college. I took the OCAT, which is the optometrist version of MCAT, and passed it, did well, got accepted to an optometry college and was working through the funds. And I'm like, I didn't know. I went ahead and applied for the Living Seas position. They were getting hundreds of resumes a day.
Oh,
and I was like, this is a long shot. I don't know what I'm doing. And but I really felt I was a new believer, and I really felt like God was telling me to stay here in Orlando and not go the optometry route. The expense was extremely high. It was out of state. I would have had to go into major debt, and I really didn't want to get into debt.
Right.
I really felt like that was an important part of God's plan for me, was to not get into debt through that. So I stayed working on the rides at Disney after I graduated through the summer, and continued going through the process of interviewing for Living Seas Pavilion. And I was very, very shocked that I got that position. There were only 2 entry-level positions. And so 3 months later from graduation, I began working as an aquarist at Disney, which was a phenomenal experience at the time. The opportunities were great. We had state-of-the-art everything.
So tell us a little bit about what is an aquarist at the Living Seas. What did you do?
Yes. So an aquarist's job is the collection and the care and the maintenance and the research of the ocean animals in an aquarium. Okay. So it involves chopping up fish guts and, swimming and diving in the water daily. I would have to dive 2 times a day for feeding time because we had specific types of animals we needed to feed in specific ways with specific food. Our larger animals needed special nutrition. And so we had to feed them, particularly the sharks. The sharks and the dolphin at the time were swimming in the same aquarium. So we were studying their behavior. People would say, oh, the poor dolphin, because the sharks are going to eat them. And it was really the other way around, because the dolphin are much more intelligent than the sharks. And so they would corral the sharks down to the ground or the floor, and then watch them float to the surface. And the sharks would get all stressed out. So we'd have to put the dolphins in dolphin timeout. And so it was that whole maintenance thing. And then we spent summers diving and fishing for animals to bring to the aquarium. And so Disney at the time had an island down the Florida Keys, and we would go a week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, and collect and then bring them up. And so once the aquarium was underway, we were feeding, monitoring, observing, building aquariums. I was in charge of fish nutrition and predators. And so fish nutrition, because it's an aquarium, we have specific needs that fishes have that we can't always provide. Like parrotfish feed on coral, live coral. And so the corals in the Living Seas are not live because coral filters plankton out of the water. And this is basically like a it's aquarium. So it's recycled. The water continually gets recycled and filtered and cleaned. And so there's no plankton for them to feed on. So all the corals in the large aquarium are artificial. So we had to come up with a way to give them the nutrition they needed. And so we made what we call these dental plaster food blocks in a loaf pan. We used dental plaster, which provided that calcium carbonate medium for them to get their food. And then we incorporated fish pellets that were coated with special oils to give them the complete nutrition that they needed to have the color, pigments for their body. And so we placed these little white loaves polka dotted loaves all around the aquarium, and they would come and just chomp on it. And so things like that we had to do.
And isn't it funny to think that they would know that that was for them, right?
It is, yeah.
Because their natural environment would not look like that.
Right. And you would think that they would start feeding on the plexiglass or not, fiberglass fake coral, but they didn't. I don't know if it was smell or not, but we tested a couple smaller muffins in like muffin tins, and they took right to it. And so we were able to keep then parrotfish in the aquarium. That's part of the problem where some fishes can't be kept in an aquarium environment because of their needs are difficult to provide in an artificial environment. But we made it as natural as possible. Again, the sharks we would not feed while we were diving. We didn't want them associating divers with food. Of course, yeah. So we would give them large fish that were frozen and thawed, like food grade fish, and then we would stick vitamins inside those fish so that when we would feed them from the surface, they would come up, they would grab the fish and take off, and it was very non-Shark Week like. It was very calm, very nice. So that's very awesome. Controlled environment. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like, I mean, that's incredible. When in the process of this timeline, did you meet and marry your husband, and where did he come into play in all of this?
Well, we have a very nerdy, sciencey, romantic story. We both met in college. He was a physics major, I was a pre-med major, and it was a small college. And all of the science majors would have to take certain general science education courses. And so we were both taking the same physics class. And in the lab, we would divide up into groups of 2. And there was an uneven number of students in the class. So he and I were in a group of 3 with a mutual friend that we had. And then a month into the class, that mutual friend dropped it. And so he and I were together as physics lab partners, and we got to know each other. And the subject that semester was electricity and magnetism. So.
that can't be any nerdier now, right?
No, it can't be. I know. We just
that's awesome.
We have to embrace it the way it is, and so that's how we met. And then we got married a couple years after college. Yeah.
Okay. And when he was finished with college, what was he doing? Was he also involved in sciences in the way that you were?
Well, he actually became an engineer. So he got a double major in physics and then engineering, and works as a civil engineer. So he does structural design for high voltage power lines. So it's a very physics driven field, where mine is more life sciences, biological driven field. And we have our occasional discussions about which is the better science, but we all know that life science is more fun.
That's right. Yes. And I know he enjoys those experiences now that you have with what you do, right? So,
that's right.
But it's interesting too, because I think that you were knit together well for what you do and who he is, and understanding, what you need to produce the things that you're doing now when you're traveling and you're doing video recording. Is like he understands a lot about what's going on.
He does. And he's jumped in, full body into it, because he takes a part in it. Yeah, he's my videographer when we travel, and so he's gotten all the gear, and he knows the different angles and sets it up and helps me, figure out where. Yeah, I'm like, science is everywhere, but sometimes I'm like, I don't see science here. It's like, oh no, this is great, and so it's a good team effort.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you got married, and you were working at Disney. And enjoying all of the beautiful creatures of the waters, right?
Yes.
What happened to move you on to the next steps in your life? Where did you decide to move on from there?
I became pregnant with our first child, and you're not supposed to dive when you're pregnant. It's not good for the baby, and so for that. Immediately, I had to stop that part of it. And then, of course, if you've ever been pregnant before, those of you who are listening, the smell of fish doesn't necessarily go well with pregnancy. So for the first 6 months, I actually worked in a different department, in the education department, helping with the education of school groups that would come in to Living Seas. I helped to craft some of those. educational materials. And then throughout that pregnancy, I really knew that I wanted to be home with my baby. I wanted to be full-time home with the child. And so, of course, I let my superiors know that. And when he was born, I came home. I considered it a promotion. I
There you go.
was promoted to mom and left that career field. I had just published my first scientific research paper on shark behavior. Things had written articles for trade magazines. I was, touring celebrities that were coming through. It was a really fun job. I loved it. And I really felt like God was calling me to be home. And most of my coworkers thought I was nuts.
Yeah.
They were like, why are you throwing this career away? And, I had studied for this. And I just really, my husband and I both felt like God was calling me to do that. And if I had not done that, I would not be doing what I'm doing today, which is something that I enjoy even more. I loved having that experience. I mean, I even dove with Mickey Mouse in the water, who's not hydrodynamic and was difficult to swim.
I'm sure.
Sure. But it was something I really felt like was a higher calling. And we began having children. We had 4 children in 6 years. So my life was very different all of a sudden.
Definitely a promotion.
A promotion, right? Well, it was filling my days. And so then we really wanted to homeschool our kids. And so by the time our oldest was pre-K, kindergarten, we were looking at the idea of homeschooling. And I thought, I can't ruin preschool. I can't ruin kindergarten. I think I can know my numbers and colors. And so we just started doing some informal stuff together. And the homeschooling was sort of new at that time.
I was going to say, how were you introduced to homeschooling?
Yeah, that's a good question. We got to know several other families who had been homeschooling their children, and we were blown away by, first of all, their demeanor, their socialization. Let me just say that word. They were able to communicate, right, with adults, with kids their own age, with kids older or younger, and we were watching them and just amazed at that maturity that they showed, their interest in talking about things, their academic abilities. I mean, they weren't like performing academics for us, but we just in conversation, what they knew, questions that they asked were very thought out questions about things, and not just, yeah, I'm fine kind of stuff.
Right.
And that just got us interested. And of course, then me knowing I had 3 boys and then a girl, and my boys were very energetic. I knew one. And I knew one had ADHD at the time, and I know now he does. He still has, obviously. And I felt like they would have a difficult time sitting in a classroom doing busy work at a desk. And so I thought, I just don't want to put them in that environment right now. I didn't think they were ready for it. And so we just tried it and took it a year at a time. And it just became more and more successful. It flowed beautifully in our household from one kid to the next. And the little ones would kind of be absorbing things.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how that happens?
Isn't it? Oh, and they want to do it because they want to show how much they know. And so that motivation is there. And the sweet time we had in relationship building with our children was beautiful. So that started us on that beautiful journey of teaching our kids.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I mean, I know, what it's like to make a choice to come from a career to home, and exactly what you mean when you say it feels like a promotion, because it's a greater work. It really is a greater work. And seeing how your children develop and how, ultimately their lives are directed to the things that they're called to do and that they're bent and, their gifts are in, it's amazing. And we recognize that homeschooling really provides an opportunity to be that customized with our kids, with ourselves, and what we're doing. And so I know you were busy homeschooling, but you were still out there producing some other scientific knowledge for other students. Did you start doing that primarily like through co-ops and teaching classes outside of your own kids and home?
Yes. And
Okay.
most of us in the homeschool arena know that if you are known as a science person, someone who loves science, people start throwing their children at you.
Yes,
Will you
there
please
you
teach
go.
my kids? Yes, that's right. And it actually made it more fun. I loved that idea. And so whatever my kids needed, educationally speaking for science, I'm like, we're going to do, physical science this year. And I would, open it up to friends and people in our co-op to just come and join us. I didn't even charge for classes. If they paid me extra to just help me provide the lab fees, but we would meet once a week, and it made it more fun for my kids. We actually completed the course because we had accountability.
There you go.
And so I just began doing that because I loved it. My kids loved it. It kind of formed a miniature co-op in our home during that time, with other subjects being taught by other moms at the same time.
Of course,
so it just kind of naturally flowed. And my love for teaching science, my love for just sharing that wonder of God's creation with students and watching their eyes light up just clicked in my head. And then again, my understanding of seeing God's creative fingerprints. So in college, it was a secular college, like I said, and I was a young Christian at the time. And one of the courses I had to take for my major was titled Evolution. And the textbook was Darwin's Origin of Species, which is how man believes that we all came to be without a God. And I'm reading the Bible for my first time. God's saying how everything came to be. And I'm seeing his wisdom in there. Like, did you know that the hydrologic cycle is in the book of Job, which was written thousands of years before, quote, scientists discovered it? It was there.
Crazy.
So God made it. He knows it was there. It's in his word. It's wisdom. And so I just love that. Started me on an apologetics journey of why I believe what I believe throughout my work time and then into the homeschool community. And so I love sharing that with kids who question how, what they're getting in the world, as telling them they're billions of years old and they're just basically a dinosaur that's been evolved or something. And how I don't see evidences of that from a scientist standpoint. There's a lot of ways to approach that. So,
and so you started really kind of diving into the apologetics side of that for your kids and yourself, obviously, but also to teach. How did you get connected to now? I know you, of course, and is working with Apologia, and you've been doing that. How many years have you been doing Apologia now?
It's been decades. I want to say, I think 2013 is when the first book I wrote came out. And maybe before that. Maybe before that. No. It was before that. 2009.
Okay.
Again, it's been a while because we've done a couple of different new editions of the first book I wrote for Apologia was the high school marine biology textbook. So
were you writing before that, other than what you were doing maybe with your kids at home? Like, how did you? That's in a whole different side. Like, how did you discover you can not only teach it, but then you're writing textbooks and curriculum, which I've done. I know that's a totally different little beast, right? Like,
it's a whole different animal. You are right, and I didn't think I could do that. I had written, like I had said, I had published scientific research. So I had to write that. I wrote for trade magazines. But I wasn't a good writer, in my opinion. I didn't think I got trained well. So the time periods when I told you we moved as a kid, we moved. I went to 4 different middle schools. And that's the time in your life when you're learning proper grammar, proper composition skills, parsing out, all the different I didn't ever have to do that. I never had to diagram a sentence. And I felt
lucky.
I know.
And it probably wouldn't have helped.
So I just never felt confident in my writing, but I was homeschooling my kids. I had to learn the proper grammar. I had to learn how to write by going through the process of them learning how to write 4 different times. And so I felt like, okay, I know proper grammar. I felt like at this point, I was approached by the owner of Apologia at the time that had written chemistry and biology and human anatomy and all those things. But people were asking for a marine biology course. And so
Okay.
I was just buying some more curriculum at FPEA at the conference.
That's
And I was
awesome.
there and I was like, oh, okay, I love this. I want to get another one. And I said, my son really loves this. And they said, oh, do you have a science background? And we just started talking. And when they found out that I had the marine biology background, they said, we're looking for a marine biologist who would write this. And they just kind of walked me through. They said, if you could write a book about teaching kids about this, give us a table of contents and then just write a chapter about something, one of those chapters. And so I spent some time in prayer and talking about it. And it just kind of went from there. It just naturally
amazing.
flowed. And a lot of it was because, and I know you know this too, in the days, a couple decades ago, there were not very many curricula available. And so we had to create our own. We used the library as a resource often when we wanted to do something special. And so writing curriculum was kind of a natural part of, how do I teach this? Well, let's get a book
kind of
on
a
it.
necessity.
Yes, right. And so we kind of gained those skills by doing. And it was just the perfect timing. My kids were middle school and older, and I had just I had extra time. So when they were writing, I was writing, and they would actually read for me and help me. If they didn't understand something, they would help me fix it to make it more understandable. So that's how it worked, and that was my first foray into writing curriculum, and I loved it. And then since then, I've been doing a lot of other things as well, more curriculum and more other things. So.
Well, that's amazing though. And so part of your venturing into, because one of the things that you do that's most exciting to me, and I've been able to watch and see a lot because my kids used your curriculum that you've written for all of high school sciences. But, so the videos that you do and the traveling that you do, how did that develop? Was it just a natural occurrence with what you were creating for Apologia, or was it something that you just really felt was important to do and, you just ventured out on your own to do? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was actually through Apologia. They were wanting to develop a video instruction curriculum for kids who didn't have access to a science teacher, or that couldn't, they had a science teacher in their area, but the days didn't work. They just wanted to have that available, and suggested asked me if I would do one for their general biology course, which was the first official high school science course at the time. And they said, you can do PowerPoint and just talk voiceover and teach that way. And I thought, now this is the day. This was a while ago, and so there wasn't a lot available. I mean, Zoom calls weren't even in existence. Podcasts weren't really in existence much. There was just not a lot available. But I thought to myself, I would not, as me wanting to hear me talking over a PowerPoint for an entire chapter after chapter after chapter. And so I wanted to make it more interactive and more engaging, and propose that to them. And so I learned how to do some basic animation. And so that I could, like when we're talking about DNA replication, a student can watch the DNA double strand unfold, untwist, and different nucleotides slide into place. So it was like the 3D movable version of a stagnant image, so that kids could literally see a process. And then I wanted them to see that this is not just in theory, that we can go out in nature, in our world, and see God's fingerprints and his creation. So when we talked about migration of animals, we actually went to Tanzania, into the Serengeti, in the middle of the wildebeest migration, which was the stinkiest thing I think I've ever smelled. Nobody tells you that.
Nobody can smell it while they watched either.
That's right. I mean, it is literally tens of thousands of cows, and
Oh, wow.
but it was stunning. So you're seeing these animals zoom in behind me as I'm talking, and kids get an understanding of what a massive migration looks like. How are these animals navigating? How are they not bumping into each other? How are they going from place to place? And so that kind of started just filming outside. We talk about leaves, and I'd show them leaves.
Right.
But then we tried to incorporate a big trip a year somewhere in the world and start collecting video clips of science and things that kids could enjoy. And so my husband is my videographer, like we said earlier. So he had his camera, and now we have a GoPro, and I use my phone for my microphone recording, and it's just super portable because technology has gotten better and better. And so we just go out, we can hike places, we can go, and we dove the Great Barrier Reef. We've been all over Australia, went to the Outback in Australia.
That's
we've
phenomenal.
been throughout Europe. We've been Iceland. We've been to the Atlantic Rift, where you can walk in between the two tectonic plates between Europe and the America. So super amazing, great opportunities. We've dove with whale sharks and gotten underwater footage. So now we kind of dream, where would we like to go that would be interesting to study for kids to see? Even just a place like the home of a scientist. We went to Christian Doppler's home and stood outside of his home in Salzburg, Austria, and I'm talking in front of his home, and a bus goes by and goes meow, like a Doppler effect. I'm like, that was it. He's here. That was the Doppler effect. So anyway,
crazy.
so we get to do that to make it more engaging for kids. We really want.
And your kids are probably like, Mom didn't take me to Tanzania.
I know.
That's great. But that's great. I think it's great though to see how the things that you loved and were most interested in and what you dreamed to do, maybe didn't even think would become a reality. And now look at how it has played out for you. You were able to be with your kids and educate them at home and spend all of the time with your family. And it's evolved into something that's more adventuresome and more exciting for you now. All your kids I know have graduated, and you've graduated to the next best thing after a mom promotion is the grandma promotion.
Yes, it's the best.
It's the best. So, but what an amazing impact, I think, too, that you were afforded outside of just, the responsibility you had at home to educate your children and pour into their lives, and how that expanded to your community. And now it's expanded to even a larger community in a world of people who not only are getting the science, but are getting the apologetics behind the science.
Right. But
which is so important.
It sounds like I just kind of danced through all of this. And as well, it was hard. The days do not dance. Being a mom, the days do not dance. Being a homeschool mom, it's hard. Even working at Disney, there were days when it was
not
40 degrees outside and I had to get in the water again. And so, pulling fish guts out of my hair. Most people think marine biologists ride dolphins into the sunset, and we don't. I don't know anybody who's done that. No, it sounds fun, but no. And so it is work. It's hard work, but it's great work. And so again, being home with our kids is hard, but great. Educating our kids at home is hard, but great. Even going on these trips is hard, but great. It's I have some outtakes that are, very interesting.
Very raw.
Very raw because, you're out in the middle of nature and the world, and it's not always perfect. And so, it's wonderful. It's a privilege. It's an honor, but it's also, it's not something we slide through. And so I just, as an encouragement to everyone who's, think, what has God got for me? Wherever you are is what he's got for you right now. And it may be hard, maybe the hardest thing you've done, but he's doing something in us. He's building character in us. He's building, perseverance and fortitude and selflessness and all of those things that we can use in the next chapter. And so that is that I am still learning. I'm still, what's my next chapter, God? What are you going to do in the next season? Because I know he's got something. Until I'm laid in the grave, I'm not going to just sit on a rocker on my front porch, retired and doing nothing, because we have work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's true for, I think sometimes, especially when we homeschool, that we really can embrace the idea of being lifelong learners. And, learners grow. And I think that we just continue to grow. And, sometimes you're like I said, you look at your kid and you're like, I'm sorry you missed out on this because I wasn't here yet, right?
That's right. That's right.
But now
Yeah, we
you're-
were a work in progress while we were teaching them. That's right.
Exactly. So I think that that's amazing, but I think that it's also encouraging to the other people around us because it isn't, like you said, we don't dance through life, on a easy breeze, right?
Right.
It's hard work. And sometimes we don't remember what it's for very easily, but we can remind ourselves and we can see that working out in front of us. And then you are amazed when a door opens, like, just by happenstance in the vendor hall at FPEA, just like you weren't expecting that,
No.
So I
was
think
not.
that's amazing. And I know that you have continued to write and do work with Apologia, but I know you've also done some additional writing. You want to tell us a little bit about your most recent projects that I know are very exciting?
Yeah, my most recent book is a fiction book, which is fun. And this is I'm trying to coin a new genre because I don't know that it exists. So we all know what historical fiction is, and I know you love history.
Yes, I do.
And historical fiction is a wonderful way to learn history through story because the setting is during a specific time period.
Yeah.
Well, the book I co-wrote with Tricia Goyer is called Wonders of the Ocean Realm. And it is scientific fiction. So it's not science fiction, not like a sci-fi.
Not science
We're talking
fiction, right.
No, scientific fiction, meaning it's fiction and there's 5, it's a chapter book for middle grade readers. So 8, 9 to 12, 13. And there's 5 chapters. Each chapter highlights a different animal in the ocean at a different depth. And so it's a story about this creature going through its life and the exciting things that happens to it as it's growing, as it's trying to get its food. There's misadventures. And so through that process, you learn about these creatures and the unique way that they're made. And so I love it. It's just, I have it right here for you to see. But
that's amazing. I can't wait to get my actual hands on it because
it's beautifully.
It looks beautiful. I've seen it unboxed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's beautifully illustrated.
Yeah.
We have a great illustrator, Vlad Stankovic. It's published by Tyndall House, and they just did a phenomenal job. Even the table of contents I love because we chose an animal at 5 different depths. So the table of contents looks like the depths of the ocean, and you get to see what page each animal as you go deeper into the water.
So
and we picked unique animals. So a mimic octopus, which a lot of people know what octopuses are, and how they can change their color and their texture to blend in. But a mimic octopus is able to change his shape to match that of another creature and the behavior of that creature. So when it wants to scare off a predator, it will partially bury itself in the sand, stick out a couple of its tentacles on each side, become striped, and move like a sea snake, which is a very venomous animal. Or it can look like a conch shell. It can look like a flounder. It swims like a flounder. And so what's amazing to me is how does this animal, who is genetically very similar to a clam, how does it know to change its color, to change its texture, to change its shape, to behave like the other creatures around it, and knowing which ones are the venomous ones and which ones are the safe ones, and when to blend in. It's absolutely astonishing. So we have a fun story with our little octopus.
That's great. That's great. I can't wait to see it. And I love all of the marine science.
Yes, I do.
I could keep taking it in over and over again. But I think that it's incredible that you've had an opportunity to expand your writing horizons, past curriculum. I feel like I've written curriculum and I've written other things, and I feel like it just kind of is refreshing sometimes because curriculum seems so methodical and in the ways that we have to present and do the things. But when you can just kind of write and,
Right. Well, and as homeschoolers, it's so fun to teach through story. We that's how we learn. I mean, from the beginning of time, teaching through story is how we were wired to learn. And so what better way to make something enjoyable by telling a story? And the whole purpose is not for them to learn it and take a test, but you're going to learn in the process because it's just fun.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And so are you working on anything else right now? I know that was new and you're like, give me a break. I need a minute.
I know, right?
But I know how it is when you're creating. You're kind of always in the process. So
Yeah, this book just launched January 7th. We are, depending on sales, which are actually doing amazing. At a certain point, we're talking right now about another in the series, like starting a series. So that's in the works right now. I've got a devotional that I'm working on, reworking and revamping for teens. That's in the works. Yep. And then I've got in the docket another video to be producing, which is just in the planning stages right now. It's not starting yet. So, but these things take, in the publishing world and the writing world, it takes time. Everything's like many years out, and so
that's exciting,
keeping myself busy. Yeah,
it's exciting. Well, I want to say thank you so much. I like to. Before we wrap up and end, I always like to ask a question, which is, I know you're talking about story and how those impact our lives. I know so many times that there have been things, whether it was a phrase that you heard over and over again from a family member or a verse of scripture or just a quote from someone that maybe really inspired you in your journey, either when you were younger to do what you do, or something that really inspires you now that you really hold on to and go back to over and over again. Is there something that you could share?
I guess the first thing that comes to my mind would be a Bible verse, Colossians 1:17, which is one of my favorites. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And that to me is like the theoretical physics Bible verse. In him, all things hold together. R.C. Sproul says there is no maverick molecule. And I think that goes with it. There is nothing that moves. There's nothing that exists that is not outside of God's knowledge, and he holds it together. There's a mystery scientists have, chemists have. There's a mystery to how things behave and how they're held together. There's a mystery to the fine tuning of our universe, how everything is ordered and organized and designed. How did it become that way if nothing was upholding it, if nothing was there? And so the fact that it says all things hold together in him, he's upholding it. He's holding it together. That's the mystery part. And that to me is the awe. That to me is the wonder that gets us excited about studying our world.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. How inspiring you have been, and all of the work that you've done, not just for homeschooling communities at large, but in your local community and your family. I know it's just been an amazing work. So thank you, and thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that'll be able to enjoy now understanding just a little bit more about Miss Sherri.
Oh, well, thank you, Suzanne. I love what you all do for homeschoolers and for families. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening to the Not by the Book podcast from the Florida Parent Educators Association. To learn more about homeschooling in Florida or to find resources to help you on this amazing journey, visit our website at FPEA.com. If you have any suggestions for future guests, contact me, Suzanne, at notbythebook@fpea.com. Thanks again for listening, and be inspired to live your life not by the book.